ML Sports Take, Bonna family, what's happening? All brought to you by Camillus Golf Club and Stumbling Monkey Brewing Company. A lot to get to. Yes, typical Bonnies, right? Just complete control of the basketball game from the time they were down 9-2, and then they basically lead the entire game. They're in control the entire game. They had monster runs the entire game. They forced scoring droughts, especially in the first half. Huge chunk scoring droughts for Loyola, and they're up 15 at the half, and then they proceed to stay in control. Each team scored 38 in the second half. Bonaventure wins it 79-64 to improve to 9-7 in the conference, and of course 18-10 overall. A bunch of things to get to. First of all, congratulations to Mark Schmidt, head coach. 300 wins, unbelievable. I'm not living in the moment. I'm not doing this as hyperbole. I'm not doing this to get clicks. I respect all the coaches from yesteryear, trust me, and I didn't live through a lot of them, okay? I lived through Jim Barron. I went to school with Jim Barron when Jim Barron was there, I should say, and what a special time that was. So a lot of respect for him and Jimmy Saddle, who's a friend of mine, and Larry Weese, and all these different guys who coached at Bonna. I think Mark Schmidt's the GOAT. I think he's the greatest head coach in Bonaventure history, because I think when you put him up against all those other guys, you can look at, you know, postseason appearances and wins and players you got and NBA prospects and consistency. You can look at all the basketball things, but what separates Mark from the others is he saved us. I've said this a million times. He's saved the program, saved basketball. Really, because you saved basketball at a school like Bonna, you saved all the other athletics, because this is basically the football program at St. Bonnie as well. Without football, undefeated since what, 1950-something, 58, 59, like the shirt says. The reality is, by saving the program and by doing that, you know, the rest of the athletic programs are saved as well, because a lot of the funding, you know, trickling down and a lot of the money that you make off of men's hoops, it affects the other programs, much like at Alabama. You know, the cross-country program is affected by what the football program can bring in. So it's just reality. It's just where we are. But Bonna doesn't have football. He saved the program. He saved the school. He saved us. He saved a lot of things. And when you fast forward to right now, if he hadn't come, if he hadn't taken this job, if he hadn't turned this thing around, where the hell would we be right now? Would it be D2? Would it be D3? Would they be D1 but be in the MAC? Would they have bounced around 4 or 5 conferences? I don't even want to think about it. I mean, would there even be a program? I have no idea. What would enrollment look like? Well, I mean, certainly you don't get the expansion of things on campus. You don't get the extra funding. NIL transfer portal probably doesn't even matter for a school like Bonna, because you don't even have a program. That's where I separate Mark Schmidt from the others, and it's no disrespect to everybody. It's just a mad props to our dude, man, who has been ridiculous. He's been unbelievable. We're so lucky to have him. I'm so grateful. And it was a coaching clinic last night, right? Let's face it. And I'm glad he's coaching the team and not me, because he played Daryl Banks 31 minutes. However, who has said all year that if this team grabs the lightning, sticks it in the bottle, and makes a run, who's going to be front and center with this team? Who's going to be the guy who they're going to ride a lot of the coattails of? It's Daryl Banks, because we've seen it. Maybe it's the hair, man. Maybe getting rid of the fro and doing the dreadlock look. I like him in both looks. I probably favor the fro a little bit. Looks a little cooler, like a little Julius Erving, ABA, all that sort of thing. But the bottom line is, we know how this guy can play. He's streaky. He can be dominant when he comes off the ball screens and he sets his feet. He hits 4 of 8 from 3, 5 of 13 from the floor, and he scores 26 points in 31 minutes in this new role off the bench. I'm telling you, if Bonaventure is going to beat really good teams and they're going to make a big run in the A10 tournament, this guy is going to be there, whether you like it or not. Now, if they're losing games and they're looking awful across the board, he'll probably struggle and he'll get a lot of the blame as well, kind of like an NFL quarterback, right? Getting too much of the credit, getting too much of the blame. That's just how it works for this guy right now. I thought he handled the press conference really well last night, but he's going to be there. And if they're going to make a run and they're going to score in the 70s, he has to score points. There's no other way to look at it. They have 9 guys who play. One of them is pretty much irrelevant in terms of Luke at this point, but Brown, big minutes last night. He was just big time in this game, giving Venning some minutes off, 8 points, 3 rebounds. This was probably, you know, you look at Evans, he was cleaning up as well with his 6 rebounds. All of them were on the defensive side. He had a couple of big assists. How about those 4 blocks by Barry as well? Still want to see that guy score more. He scored 2. You didn't need him in this game. But again, in some of the others where the game takes on a different narrative, maybe where you win 71-68, it'd be nice to have Barry, score 4 to 6 or 6 to 8 points. That's just the reality of it. They didn't need him to do that last night because of Banks and because of others doing their part. This was probably the best overall team effort by St. Bonaventure, right? I mean, this year, I don't think there's any question about it. The opponent had a little to do with it. I thought that Bonaventure getting a big lift from the crowd was important. At times they were fairly loud, but it still sounds quiet. I mean, I'm sorry, but from the beginning of the game to the end of the game, it's not that constant raucous atmosphere, constant chants, constant let's go Bonas, constant defense, constant thumping of the students. It's just not the same thing. You get flashes of it, but you don't get like wow, the town was amazing tonight. They sounded incredible. From beginning to end, they just don't produce the noise, folks. I mean, there's under 4,000 people. The capacity of the RC is like 6,000 people. So they were short, a couple thousand in the arena. So that had something to do with it as well. Why aren't people going to this game? I don't get it. It's on ESPN Plus. The app is helter skelter. I don't understand why you don't go to this game. It's the hottest team in the A10. It's the second best team in the A10. Bonaventure's biggest game of the year. It's a huge game. It celebrating Venning and all that. I don't understand. I just don't understand why they were under 1,500 to 2,000 fans. I don't get it. And they did show moments of explosive noise, but then again, the consistency of it, you just don't get it there. And I thought Bonaventure rising up above that as a team was big. They can talk about, they being the players, can talk in the post game. Schmidt can talk all he wants about, oh yeah, the town, they supported us, the RC, any game that is, they lift us. No, you don't get the 40 minute without the students there and with the town, Ole and Allegheny, Bath. I don't care where you're coming from, Dansville. I don't care where you're coming from, Salamanca. I don't care where it is. I don't care, Ellicottville, Salamanca. If you don't get the 4,500 to 5,500 and they're not making noise consistently, you don't get consistent bang noise. You just don't without the student body there. I thought that the players overcame a lot of that and played their most complete game of the season. It's odd to look at a box score and see Micah Adams-Woods only take 5 shots and miss every single one of them. He only had 2 free throws in this game for his 2 points. Wild stuff there. Didn't really do a lot in terms of rebounding or assists. He had 3 turnovers. It just wasn't an Adams-Woods game, and those things are going to happen. Every game takes on its own storyline, as we know, right? Every game has its own narrative. Bonaventure, they gave Loyola some of their own medicine, I thought, right? They turned Loyola over 19 times, and players and Mark Schmidt even talked about hey, defense can create offense and all the rest, but really there's no team in the A10 like Loyola, and they're up there in terms of the entire country forcing offensive points from their defensive actions, right? I mean, their defense scrambling around, tipping balls, hands in the face, hand around the ball. I talked about it. They're kind of like a Ray Lewis at linebacker. They're always around the ball. They have done that all year, and they did that in the 7-game win streak leading into this thing. Bonaventure did it better than them last night, and that's why I thought with the defense doing that, with them great free throw shooting, 26 of 29, great movement on offense, awesome shot selection, awesome execution making shots, and going 7 of 17 from 3, and of course out-rebounding them 35-34, effort, relentless attack, being in control after being down 9-2, the complete game came into focus for Bonaventure. Best game they played from an A to Z, all phases of the basketball game, in my opinion, this year. Then you add the overcoming of the crowd at times not being that loud, plus the opponent coming in hot. This was by far the best win of the year, the best overall win of the year, all phases of basketball for sure. The blocks were unbelievable. Bonaventure's hands were everywhere in this game, not just on the perimeter, but down low. They had 7 blocks in this game. Now, Bonnie did turn it over 14 times, but that's going to happen against a Loyola team that, even though they weren't in control, Bonaventure still going to turn it over against a really sound defensive team. The thing was, Bonaventure not only countered, but then they did even more than the counter by forcing Loyola into 19 turnovers and some really bad shots. I mean, let's be honest. Bonaventure's defense, they were pushing. There were, multiple times where the shot clock got down and Loyola had to rush. There was at least 1 or 2 times where the shot clock went to 0 and they couldn't even get a shot off. Bonaventure was closing out on the wings. I thought they did an unbelievable job. I mean, incredible job on the trio of guards in terms of Watson, Edwards, and Norris. Those guys had 23 points combined. I think Norris, I had mentioned, entered the game at almost 13 points a clip. To only give up 23 points total to those guys, I thought was huge. And Loyola also rolls out. I mean, if you look at this roster, they roll out 10, 11 guys. And they have the ability to, when 3 or 4 guys aren't playing very well, a starter stays consistent and they throw in guys and they just produce. They've been doing that all year. And Bonaventure was able to neutralize that rotation, right? That sort of hockey shift mentality. And they really, really were sound defensively against every player that came in. The biggest spark was probably, Adelican for Loyola coming in for 8 points. Dawson had 9. Those two guys provided the big spark with 17 total. Double figures, obviously, for Alston and Norris, respectively, with 12 and 11. Norris is a really good player, but again, Bonaventure held him to 11 and 7 in terms of assists, points and assists, that is. And I'll take that all day long because he's a guy who not only can score, his average, but he can go beyond that if he gets hot. So it was just a really, really good game for Bonnie. Loyola went to the free throw line. They missed 9 free throws as well. I mean, that's another thing in college basketball, folks. If you get to the line consistently, you get 21 free throw attempts in a game like this and you're Loyola, you can't miss 9 of them. I mean, you maybe miss 1 or 2, but you can't miss 9 of them. If Loyola makes 7 more free throws in this game, do the math, right? It becomes like a 3-possession game or so, 3-4 possession game. Bonaventure, on the other hand, they get 29 free throw attempts, and that was another big part with Bonnie. Because they were turning Loyola over, turning it into offense, shot selection really good, guards like Banks moving without the ball and even with the ball when they needed buckets, when the shot clock was going down and the screening was faster, and even if they had to pull an ISO moment, if it was Flowers, who scored 12, who was wonderful in this game, by the way, the Swiss Army knife. Moses Flowers, man, rebounds, assists, points, you name it. He defends extremely well. Hats off to my guy Jack Milko on the broadcast last night. Thought he did a decent job. And, he talked about Moses Flowers' underrated part being his defense. I actually think his underrated part is his rebounding, because I think Moses Flowers from the beginning of the year, and frankly last year as well, I think Moses Flowers is a really good defender. I think that the book's already out on that. I think it's his rebounding. For God's sakes, the guy's all over it. His size, 8 rebounds again last night. He was all over the floor. But offensively, when you execute like that, when you can blow by people on the one-on-one, when you can pull up and make threes, when you're moving without the ball, when you're shooting threes, when you're getting into the middle, when you on occasion dump it down to Venny and he gives you 18 points and 6 rebounds, 4 on the defensive end, 2 on the offensive end, he gives you 2 blocks as well. When you're starting to just move as an engine and you're just motoring on offense and you're just going on all cylinders, and you could tell right from the jump, the execution, the effort, the want, the complete, utter offensive flow that was there. When you're doing that stuff, the defense is out of place, man, because you're making them kind of guess. It's like a spread offense in football, and you got Mahomes back there. You're like, what the hell is this guy going to do? You're on your heels a lot. You're chasing a lot. The offense was doing everything. The coaching, that playbook of Mark Schmidt showed last night, did it not? I mean, last night was a night where you said, okay, Mark Schmidt does have 300-400 plays in his back pocket. That was it last night for me. And Banks and Flowers and these guys moving around. I mean, Venning even coming up to the high post and all the rest. You get the former Jan moving around. They're scared maybe he can hit a couple of threes. And if he gets hot, what happens then? And you get Flowers and you get Banks and you get another guy and a former Jan at one time hitting shots all the time. Pride had 9 points last night and wasn't that much of a factor. Had a couple of big rebounds. But you get the point. The offense was humming, and it was moving, and it was shot making, and it was all these different things where Loyola was just, deer and headley. They're running, they're chasing. At that point, you're behind the play. And it doesn't matter where you are. You're behind the play of Venning has position. You're behind the play of Daryl Banks is open for a 3. You're behind the play if Moses Flowers is coming off a ball screen. You're behind the play of Charles Pride's wide open for a backdoor layup. And by the way, I love that as well. Bonaventure's backdoor cutting was spectacular last night. Guys were moving behind the ball, You have it at the high post, whoever it is, venting, somebody else. Guys are moving behind. Loyola's running after people. Oh, you turn, didn't hit the pass quick. Look at this. We turn here, you pass out, a three's wide open. Folks, it worked. The offense was humming, and Loyola was chasing, and they were fouling. And what does that mean? 29 free throw attempts for the Bonnies. They executed. They got those attempts while they were making shots. They make 26 free throws. Think about that for a minute. They make 26 free throws, and from there, they only had to score 53 points on top for the 79-point total. Overall, best game of the year. Overall, unbelievable play in all phases. They did everything that they had to do, from effort, offense, defense, blocking, rebounding, forcing turnovers, doing it all. The beginning of the game was a little shaky. Loyola Chicago, they were Loyola Chicago. The ball was loose. Bono was turning it over, and I'm going, oh no. Right? I know that a lot of you folks, guys and gals, had that same reaction, like, oh, come on. Like, the turnovers are starting already. Didn't you scout this? Didn't you know? It was just how the game started. But Bonaventure immediately responded, immediately made a bunch of shots, and immediately took control, in this basketball game. And when it was 9-2, it was just like Venning layup, the Moses Flowers three-pointer, 9-7. And then they just kept, Venning made another layup, right? Banks gets fouled, makes 3 free throws. They were off and running and humming. And the next thing you know, Bonaventure, Pride makes that big 3 with 4:35. They're up 9 points. Ton of stops both ways, of course. Flowers makes a jumper. You're up double digits. Venning makes some free throws. Pride makes, a layup and a free throw, right? And then they were just in full control from there. And then the second half, like I said, each team scored 38. Now we see what happens, right? I mean, everybody was posting on the alumni pages like, well, Bonaventure, we're playing, 1-4 of 5. You're playing, you're getting hot at the right time and da-da-da. Well, they're getting hot at the right time if they go and win against George Washington. George Washington now on the road. This is an ultimate spot where this year we've seen the roller coaster go up and then crash right down. This is the crash part of the season. We've seen the crash parts. This is a 500 team, George Washington. This is not a good basketball team. They are 15th in the Atlantic 10. George Washington has won 3 A-10 games. This team has trouble scoring. This team turns the ball over. This team should be outmanned. They don't have a lot of talent, but this is the roller coaster drop of the season that we've seen from Bonaventure time and time and time and time again, right? No question about it. Think about this. VCU, St. Bonnie beats VCU twice this year. Think about beating Binghamton and Akron and then VCU on the road. Then you lose at Richmond and at home to Fordham. Roller coaster crash. Then you win St. Joe's, VCU again. You could have beaten Dayton on the road. You only lose by 5. You're in that game late. You beat UMass at home. You're feeling really good. Crash. Lose to Duquesne. Beat Fordham on the road. Nice. Beat Davidson in OT. Here we go, baby. The roller coaster is back up. They're getting LaSalle. Crash. We've seen the crash. We've seen the drop. We've seen the roller coaster. This is where they do it. Let's see what happens at GW. And then St. Louis awaits on March 9th. Unbelievable. This team is unbelievable. 18-10 overall, 9-7 in the A10. Congratulations once again to Mark Schmidt, and thank you for everything. Mike Lindsley with you here. It's an ML Sports Take brought to you by our good friends at Welch & Company Jewelers and Stumbling Monkey Brewing Company. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel. And as I always tell you, enjoy the games.